Imagine being seated at the helm of the Middle East's largest airline and discovering, while reading the morning newspaper over breakfast, that the plane you ordered 5 years ago won't arrive. Not this year, not next year, maybe never. Tim Clark, president of Emirates, lived through exactly this in 2024. And that simple piece of news changed everything. The plane the entire world wanted to retire, the gigantic Airbus A380, suddenly became irreplaceable. But here's the shock. For a plane condemned to death, the A380 has never flown so much. In September 2025, Emirates scheduled 4,854 flights using the two-deck Colossus. For a funeral with a set date, the deceased is incredibly alive. So what's really happening?
If you're also passionate about the world of aviation, consider subscribing to the channel and supporting our team.
If you looked up symbiosis in the dictionary, you could simply place a photo of Emirates and the A380. Emirates operates 118 Airbus A380s, making it the world's largest operator of the model. This represents over 40% of all A380s ever produced. It's practically a monopoly and a marriage with Airbus. The relationship goes far beyond numbers. Emirates discovered the A380 effect. Placing the giant on a route automatically increases demand, simply because people want to fly on it. It's a phenomenon that defies market logic. Normally, you increase supply when there's demand. Here, supply has created its own demand. Emirates branding was built on the A380. When you think of the company, you think of that double-decker giant with showers in first class, bars on the upper deck, and an experience that transformed 14-hour flights into something desirable. It's no exaggeration to say that Emirates isn't just an A380 operator. It's responsible for keeping the legacy of the world's largest passenger aircraft breathing. Without Emirates, the A380 would already be history. But here emerges a new layer of the paradox. Without the A380, would Emirates be the Emirates we know? Airbus officially launched the A380 program on December 19, 2000, allocating $9.5 billion to create the world's largest commercial aircraft. The logic seemed impeccable. Air traffic doubled every 15 years, major airports were saturated, and an aircraft capable of transporting more passengers per flight is needed. Airbus's bet was based on the hub-and-spoke model, large central airports connecting the world through high-capacity aircraft. The reasoning made sense. If you can't increase the number of flights at congested airports like Heathrow or Dubai, increase the size of the aircraft. The A380 was designed to consume 15 to 20% less fuel than the Boeing 747 and have 30% more capacity. In theory, it would end Boeing's 35-year monopoly in the large aircraft market with the 747. But there was a problem nobody foresaw. The world was changing faster than Airbus engineers imagined. Airbus expected to sell at least 1,200 A380 units, but ended production with only 274 aircraft delivered. Most airlines preferred smaller, more efficient twin-engine aircraft capable of operating at secondary airports. The original logic failed for almost everyone, except Emirates. And here begins the real story of why the giant keeps flying. Dubai Airport isn't just strategically located between Europe, Asia, and Africa. The city transformed itself into the central point of an operation connecting the entire world. This is the hub-and-spoke that Emirates operates. The Dubai-London Heathrow route is the A380's busiest, with 180 flights scheduled in September 2025 alone, followed by Bangkok, Manchester, Paris, Jeddah, and Cairo, all high-density routes operating with the giant. Within this system, large aircraft make perfect sense. You need to concentrate as many passengers as possible on each flight to make connections viable. An A380 can carry up to 715 passengers in high-density configuration. Emirates operates with occupancy rates between 80 and 95% on its A380 fleet, meaning these aircraft fly consistently full. Efficiency on long routes is another crucial factor. The A380 has an average consumption of 3 liters per 100 kilometers per passenger, approximately 83 miles per gallon per passenger, according to Emirates, comparable to modern economy cars when considering the number of people transported. On a Dubai-Sydney route of 7,456 miles, this means transporting hundreds of people with a relatively low cost per seat, as long as the plane flies full. And it does. On the Dubai-San Paulo route, for example, operations maintain occupancies above 80%, higher than Emirates' overall average across all destinations. Emirates' hub model created the perfect demand for the A380. Or is it the other way around? What few realize is that this operational success has made Emirates a hostage to its own strategy. And here the cracks begin. Tim Clark, president of Emirates, discovered through the media that Boeing now expects to deliver the 777X only in 2027. It wasn't a direct call. It wasn't a meeting. It was reading the newspaper. For the executive of a company that should have 86 units of the 777-9 already flying, the news was an affront. Clark described Emirates as a frustrated entity, emphasizing that Boeing's delays clipped the wings of the company. The frustration is understandable. Emirates has firm orders for 170 units of the 777-9 and 35 units of the 777-8, with an original delivery date of October 2025. The 777X represented the new philosophy: large aircraft but twin engine, less fuel consumption, more range, cutting-edge technology. Clark believes that the 777X, had it not suffered delays, would have arrived in Emirates' fleet in 2022. We're in 2025, and the aircraft still hasn't entered service. But it's not just Boeing. Airbus also warned about up to 3 additional years of delays due to supply chain bottlenecks, impacting programs like the A320neo and A350. Clark expressed concerns about the A350-1000's Trent XWB-97 engine, which still hasn't achieved the necessary durability under Emirates' operational conditions. Tim Clark's anger isn't just temperamental. It's strategic. Emirates is spending $4 billion refurbishing its older A380 and 777 fleet to compensate for 777X delays. Aircraft that should be retiring are getting new cabins, new interiors, and a forced extension of life. Emirates doesn't keep the A380 flying because it wants to. It does so because it has to. Manufacturers aren't delivering as promised, and this has generated an unforeseen cost for Emirates.
A complete A380 overhaul can require 60,000 hours of work, according to Lufthansa Technik. The A380 has received 95 airworthiness directives since 2020, double those issued for large Boeing models in the same period. These include leaking emergency slides, damaged landing gear axles, cracked seals. Renting a hangar for an A380 in Frankfurt for maintenance is astronomical, and few hangars in the world are large enough to completely house the giant. Most of the time, parts of the aircraft remain exposed during maintenance. Emirates has hangars to accommodate an A380, but with nearly 120 aircraft and non-stop demand, Emirates needs to send them to other parts of the world. On paper, it's unviable, too expensive, too complex, too problematic. Any financial analysis would say to retire the aircraft immediately and replace it with modern twin-engine planes. But there's a detail that changes everything. Flying full, the A380 continues to deliver returns. The aircraft is economically unviable in theory, but operationally indispensable in practice. While other companies gave up, Air France sold 6 A380s back to Airbus, citing a lack of profitability, and Lufthansa reduced its fleet by half, keeping only 5 aircraft. Emirates did the opposite. Why? Because Emirates doesn't just fly aircraft, it flies a complete business model. And in that model, the A380 is still the engine. In January 2025, Emirates resumed A380 operations to Copenhagen after nearly 5 years, offering 43% more seats compared to the Boeing 777-300ER previously used on the route. The company confirmed it plans to extend the A380's life until 2040, with major refurbishments to first and business class cabins. It's a bold bet. Meanwhile, Emirates is also pushing for a stretched 777-10, about 150 inches longer than the 777-9, equivalent to 5 or 6 additional rows in economy class. Clark is also negotiating with Airbus for a higher capacity version of the A350, seeking a successor to the A380. The problem? All these aircraft exist only on paper or in unfulfilled promises. The 777X is delayed. The high-capacity A350 is speculation. Emirates is stuck between a past that's expensive to maintain and a future that doesn't arrive. Meanwhile, the skies remain full of A380s in Emirates' blue and gold colors. Dubai London Heathrow maintains 6 daily A380 flights in September 2025, totaling 180 monthly operations. It's the giant's busiest route in the world and shows no signs of slowing down. The giant the world wanted to retire is what still keeps global air traffic breathing, not by choice, but by necessity. Not by economic viability, but by lack of alternatives.
And perhaps paradoxically, this is the real lesson the industry is learning the most expensive way possible. In aviation, as in life, what works isn't always what makes sense on paper. Sometimes, the giant you tried to kill is exactly what keeps you alive.
While the 777X and A350 are delayed, the A380 continues taking off from Dubai. And Tim Clark, frustrated but pragmatic, continues refurbishing his giants, knowing they need to fly until the future finally arrives. Maybe in 2027, maybe in 2030, maybe never on the terms he expected. The A380 isn't just an aircraft. It's the heart of a global strategy, and its future depends on factors few outside the industry know. Fragile supply chains, delayed certifications, unfulfilled promises, and a hub in the desert that transformed geography into competitive advantage. How long can Emirates keep the legacy of the world's largest aircraft in the skies? The question remains unanswered. But one thing is certain. Every time you see that double-decker colossus majestically climbing through the skies, you're witnessing not the end of an era, but its stubborn refusal to end.